The peak of the baby boom was 1960, which means the next 5 years will be the peak of their retirement. With that in mind, there are big decisions to be made, and it's why many people turn to the financial expertise of Safe Harbor Retirement Group. And back with me today, Corey Sickles, who's the president of Safe Harbor Retirement. Hi, Corey.
Hi, Robin. How are you doing today?
I'm good. And, we've been talking a lot about our finances lately, I think in general. A lot of it not good when we talk about kind of the numbers and things like that. But we do have to realize that life is kind of continuing on. And for a lot of the baby boomers, they're hitting retirement right now, right? So is Social Security, if we talk about that specifically, is that ever kind of not a hot topic for you and your clients?
I mean, it's always a hot topic. Anybody that comes into our office for the very first time when we start building income planning, one of the first things they'll talk about, is Social Security. Because when I start laying out income plans, it's really the foundation. In some cases, it can represent, up to about 65% of someone's household income when you look at what Social Security says. And when you really start looking about, when should you take Social Security, one of the things that you really, if you don't do it the right way, you can actually end up leaving 30, 50, or even up to $100,000 on the table, depending on how long you live. And that's why, so Social Security can have a huge impact, when we start talking about income planning.
And so you also say that most people actually have this kind of income gap when they look at that and they are starting to plan. Is that often where that Social Security comes in? Because we do usually have other forms, hopefully, right, of savings when we get to that point.
That's correct. When you really look at it, when you quit working and you start taking, potentially Social Security, one of the things that you still have bills to pay, right? So we one of the things that we actually look at is when we start, looking at all your income, which could be pensions, it's going to be your retirement accounts, could be some other savings that you have. But when we start laying that income plan out, a lot of times you have what we call that income gap, which you were talking about, or a shortfall. And one of the best ways to fill that income gap is with your Social Security, because once you do activate it, right, you're going to be able to receive that income for the rest of your lifetime. So you want to make sure that you do it the right way.
All right. So if somebody does not do it at the right way, let's start there. Is that ever something that can be fixed?
The short answer really is really once you lock in on your Social Security benefits, you're locked in that for the rest of your lifetime. So one thing that I always say to our clients is when you want to actually apply for your Social Security benefits, you need to make sure that you're doing it at the right time, because that really is something that you cannot change. You're going to be locked into that payment for the rest of your lifetime.
All right, so here it is, the golden question, Corey. When can or should someone start taking those Social Security benefits?
Well, it's a question I always get. And one of the things that I'll really say with that is everyone's situation is a little bit unique, for the fact that once we start building income plans, and depending on your health and some other types of things, but you can't start taking at the age of 62. Most people, tend to try to wait to their full retirement age, which is 66 or 67. But what it really comes down to, I think, is being educated, develop an income plan for them, and then determine what's the right situation for you and also your spouse. I think a lot of people don't always think about their spouse. And one of the things that you always have to remember is whoever, if your spouse does pass away, you go from two Social Security checks to one. And one thing you need to realize is that other remaining spouse get whichever's higher. So in a lot of cases, when we start, talking about maximizing your Social Security, that's something that you really need to be able to look at.
And Corey, to that end, you have a Social Security maximization report, actually, so it can specifically spell out to people how to best make, the best case scenario, right?
That's correct. You can go to our website, which is, safeharboroh.com. There's a little link on there, Social Security maximization report. And one of the things we can do is we can run a Social Security, maximization report for you and your family. If you are receiving a state pension, we can actually also determine the windfall. But the one thing I think is very important is you want to be educated. And I think this report allows you to be educated, and then you can make the right decision, for when you really should be able to, maximize your Social Security. And of course, one of the things that we we need some basic information, but we do not need your social security number in order to run your maximization report. We just need a few other pieces of information, and we can provide that to you, and then you can make an educated decision on when you really should actually, file for your Social Security.
All right, definitely important stuff. Corey, safeharboroh, as you mentioned, .com is that website. Thanks so much for all your advice.
Thanks, Robin.